What's up, guys? Gun here. We're going to talk about wide receivers I'm digging early on for DraftKings NFL Week 5. Can you believe it's Week 5 already? We're bumbling, stumbling, rumbling, tumbling through the NFL season. And this week's kind of tricky. It really is. I think there's some, not completely obvious spots, and then there's some fun contrarian spots, but they come with a little bit more risk. So I'm gonna have a lot of fun doing that. Hey, you guys want to win $25 via PayPal this Monday? All you gotta do is be a subscriber of the channel, like each video that we've put up this week, and leave a comment. And on Monday we'll do a drawing, and each video that you comment on will be worth one entry into the drawing. So we've been giving out $25 last couple weeks, or in exchange for a VIP pass. But I know you guys, you want that paper, so win some money, win some PayPal money, add it to the bankroll, win a bunch of dough on me. All you gotta do is help us out, shaking up the YouTube algorithm, get us out there, and let's talk about some wide receivers. Before we do that, RunDFS.com, we have the cheapest VIP subscriptions that we've ever had, and likely will ever have until maybe this period next season. But right now, for the next couple weeks, it's just NFL in terms of stuff I support. But the cats in the RunDFS.com VIP Discord are playing everything. Last night we were having some fun watching some baseball, playing some showdowns, and we might play some showdowns, but I don't want to officially, support that. It's a high variable thing. But our buddy Kyle's in the hockey Discord. Man, he's talking hockey. He's probably the smartest hockey cat I know. People down here playing soccer, tennis. You got UFC. So there's still DFS out there. There is still money to be made. And right now you can be part of our fun community at an extremely discounted rate. Basically everything is 50% off what it will be in 3 weeks. So you guys want to lock in, go have some fun, meet the community at a discounted rate. Invite you guys to come be part of it and have some fun this weekend, this Saturday night. As always, we'll have the RunDFS.com candle burn. Be advised, it will be after the Yankee game. Yankees play at home, but it's an earlier game. It's a 4 p.m. game, so we should be good to go as long as it's not a 15-inning hoorah, right? Let's talk about some wide receivers on DraftKings.com this week, man. I like a lot. The big guys, the high guys, all make a lot of sense. I love Deshaun Watson, so handcuffing him to DeAndre Hopkins makes a lot of sense. Running it back with Julio makes a lot of sense despite a down week last week. Keenan Allen bouncing back after a surprisingly inefficient for fantasy performance against the Dolphins makes sense. And then Mike Evans and Chris Godwin is where I'm going to start. Leaning more Chris Godwin here. Chris Godwin, a very nice $6,900. Chris Godwin has the third most receiving yards amongst wide receivers while being tied for the most touchdowns accounting for 35.29% of his team's red zone targets. He's emerging as a huge piece of this Buccaneers offense, as teams are still committed to choosing between focusing on him or focusing on Mike Evans. And what you saw Mike Evans do against the Giants kind of leads me to believe that you just can't give up on Mike Evans. So Marshawn Lattimore will probably look to curtain call his great showing versus Amari Cooper last week versus Mike Evans, leaving Chris Godwin to again dominate out of the slot. Loving this spot here as the Superdome, normally the Coors Field of the NFL, even though last Sunday night didn't look that way. I think Chris Godwin has a pretty high target rate, a high red zone usage rate here. Give me 20 fantasy points as a start, but I definitely think he could walk away with more in this surprisingly high. It's not even that surprising. It's surprising that they went and dropped a 50 bomb in Los Angeles. But this is an offense we expected to have a super high ceiling with Bruce Arians at the helm. So Chris Godwin, wide receiver number 1, we're going to talk about. Hey, let's run it back. Michael Thomas, $6,600. This could be the most disrespectful pricing I've ever seen for a football player ever. At Can't Guard Mike. Somebody let him know. He's third in the NFL in targets despite not having Drew Brees under center the last couple weeks. And he is yet to put up a fantasy performance under 16 DraftKings points. Teddy Bridgewater has a low average depth of target. I get it, that can be scary. But this volume on Thomas is way too high for such a low price. The Buccaneers defense has funneled offenses away from the run, where they've allowed the third lowest rushing yards allowed, while allowing the second most receiving yards. The way to beat this team is through the air. I like the Saints to pepper Mike Thomas with targets, fighting that powerful Buccaneers offense. 6,600 is ridiculous. Somebody fell asleep on this one. So give me Mike Thomas all day long, all day strong. This guy led the league in receptions last year. I know Drew Brees is out, but give me Mike Thomas. And then let's highlight Tyler Boyd here. 6,500. I mentioned Andy Dalton in the quarterback video. The Bengals did what the Bengals do in prime time. Suck. They sucked. I expect them to suck in prime time, but I also expect them to relive some early season glory with some high volume this week versus the Cardinals. John Ross is looking doubtful, so Tyler Boyd's going to have to lead this receiving corps against the Cardinals, and we should expect a ton of passing in this one, as the Bengals have a 70% pass rate, the Cardinals have a 68% pass rate. That's both top 4 in the NFL in terms of pass rate. Tyler Boyd, speaking of top 4, he's 4th in the NFL in targets this season. Down game against Pittsburgh, it happens. Week 1, 2, and 3, double-digit targets. This is a Cardinals defense that I have been streaming players against, and then usually when I'm done streaming those players, I go and stream a couple of more players. Give me Tyler Boyd as a core play for me at the wide receiver spot. And those are the 3 highlighted wide receivers I want to talk about. Just skimming real through, though. English words. Did you speak them? Just skimming through the player pool at the wide receiver position real quick, though. A couple guys stand out that are at least worth mentioning. Adam Thielen, squeaky wheel, gets the grease. There's been a lot of vocal frustration from the Vikings, particularly the receiving core. This is a spot for the Vikings receivers, not just Adam Thielen, but Stephon Diggs, both these guys in the 6K ranges. If the Giants put up some points here, and if the Vikings have to shake things up a little bit to show they can throw the ball a little bit more, both these guys are a touchdown and 6 catches away from being a solid play. So definitely like them in tournaments. Juju Smith, I'm probably away from that. Julian Edelman, 6,300. All day long, all day strong here. If I had to pick a 4th, it'd be Julian Edelman for cash, man. 7 targets last week against Buffalo. Buffalo, an extremely tough matchup. They only put up 1 touchdown against Buffalo. It was a Brandon Bolden touchdown, and then they had I think they had a block punt for a touchdown. Edelman, in a normal game, is going to be a guy that is Tom Brady's favorite target. Miami game, they had Antonio Brown on the team. Between that, New York Jets, he went 7 for 10. Got injured in that game, by the way. Still put up 19 fantasy points. And then week 1 at home in Foxborough on prime time, 16 fantasy points. So on the road at Washington, you're definitely worried about a blowout, but this is a pretty reasonable price for Julian Edelman, who likely gets you around 15 fantasy points as a floor with a little bit of upside. And you could also make the case for Josh Gordon with a little similar ideology. Words, English. We're learning today, boys. Larry Fitzgerald's interesting. Alshon Jeffrey, probably going to be a no for me, dog. Allen Robinson, I mentioned Chase Daniel in the quarterback video. A-Rob, $5,600. This guy's too talented. He's averaging 10 plus yards a catch right now. Mitch Trubisky hasn't looked great, and he's been against I'll say the Bears have been against some better defenses, Green Bay and Minnesota. Green Bay, of course, going into last week was looking pretty good. Minnesota, a good defense. Washington, he's got to dance with Josh Norman. Did just fine against him. And in Denver, Chris Harris Jr. So A-Rob at 5,600. I think there's plenty of room for a tournament standpoint on him. The Raiders are not a defense I'm running away from. I think there's plenty of meat on the bone at that price. And as we scroll down a little bit more, you might notice this D on John Ross. Somebody clipped that. I'm going to regret that sentence. LOL, smiley face. But that D stands for doubtful, you perverts. Which means Auden Tate. Next man up for him. $3,500 on him. 6 targets, 10 targets his last 2 games. He's going against the Cardinals. The Cardinals and the Bengals, I've said it already, 2 teams in the top 4 of most pass percentage per game. Tate definitely in line for a potential great value game for him there. Keeping it moving at the wide receiver position. Wims. I think Wims is the other guy I was thinking about here. Javon Wims of the Bears. Mentioned Allen Robinson. But Taylor Gabriel's out. Javon Wims, 5 targets last week, 4 receptions. Caught a 37-yard long pass. Not something I'm in love with. But if I like Chase Daniel, Wims could sneak in there as a solid play. So wide receivers looking pretty interesting, to say the least. And there's a lot of guys that feel a little bit cheap. A lot of guys that look like they're in line for a bounce back. We got Golden Tate coming out of suspension this week for the Giants, giving them a full fledged of receiving weapons outside of Saquon. So maybe that's even more potential for the Vikings pass catchers there. So that's my look at wide receivers. Let me know if you guys have any diamonds in the rough who you guys really like at wide receiver. Do you agree, disagree with some of the plays I'm really, really digging? Let me know in the comments below. And of course, you leave a comment if you're a subscriber. Hit the old thumbs up. You will be entered and eligible to win $25 via PayPal. As simple as that. If you guys got anything else for me, twitter.com/GundeckerSports. DMs are open. I am a chatty catty when it comes to Twitter, man. You guys at me. I'll do my best to reply to you. And with no daily MLB right now for me crunching before lock, I could probably get to you in a swift and timely manner. Big time discount at VIP, RunDFS.com, man. Jump in that Discord this week. Come be part of the crew, the fan band. Have some fun. Love you guys. I'll see you in the next video. Good luck. God bless. Go win some money.